All right. Good afternoon, Stacey. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you so much for allowing me to record this portion of our interview. Um, I am extremely impressed with your background and your resume. You have a lot of experience, some really good experience that we seek here primarily, in this market and this area. So I'm going to go ahead and let you get started. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the work you have done most recently?
Most recently, I actually did it was a company owned by myself and my husband doing epoxy. But prior to that, it was working for TopBuild doing contract negotiation and administration, a lot of negotiating the contract terms in construction, as well as insurance, and what's required, what we could provide, what we couldn't provide. Um, TopBuild does a lot with insulation, and glass storefronts. Prior to that, um, I worked mainly construction most of my life. RMA Builders was another one that was pretty big. I ran seven roofing crews with siding, soffit, fascia, windows, and doors. Um, Basically, they hired me as an admin. 2 weeks later, they fired their project manager, handed me the keys, and said, "Here, run the company. We're going to go back to Minnesota." So I got to do
Wow.
everything. They had the salesman in place, they gave me an assistant, and I did everything. I'm a notary, so I would go out to the customers, get a notice of commencement signed, talk with the customers, make sure they're happy, make sure the guys are out there working, doing what they're supposed to do. I would go do follow-ups, so forth, and get their take on how the job went. Um, the salesman would tell me, they did all the measuring actually, and then they just gave me what size everything was, and then I would have to go and order the materials, check their numbers, make sure that they got everything right, of course, before I ordered the materials, make sure their squares were all up to par and we didn't miss anything. Um, and just ran the office, bookkeeping, payroll, the whole 9 yards, all of that. And then they were storm chasers. So after the storms, after they cleaned up everything in the storms, that's when the storms in South Florida hit. So they hired some people down in South Florida. I trained them, and that was my first experience with work from home. And that went really well. I went down there every quarter and made sure all the guys were doing everything, and that worked out quite well. Prior
Wow.
to that, I've
Okay.
also
Yeah.
owned a stucco business and just all sorts of fun stuff. I try to get in wherever I can.
So, QuickBooks, you've worked in
Yes.
QuickBooks? All
QuickBooks
right.
was the primary one with construction. I've also worked in ServiceNow, Quick Oracle. I worked at the Orlando airport for a while. We used Oracle there, paying out about $15 million every week when they started the terminal expansion. Um, Excel is something that I've used constantly every single day of my life, even since I have not been working. I use Excel all the time to track everything. It works out very well. Pivot tables, VLOOKUPs, everything. It's like kind of like riding a bike. It's my go-to. I go back there and I try not to have too many spreadsheets, but the ones that I have, like to be able to find what I need within each one and link the ones together that need to be so you can get information from more than just one spreadsheet.
Gotcha. Okay. Now what about estimates and like doing takeoffs? We talked a little bit about that. Tell me about that.
Right. And that comes in a lot with the roofing company. And like I said, we did have salesmen that went out and sold the jobs, but I had to go back behind them and make sure that everything was correct, all the amount of materials was proper and correct. I also worked for a electrical engineer for a while, where it was called contract administration, but it was mostly purchasing, um, and lien waivers and all of that stuff. There was a lot of estimating involved in that because they wanted to make sure that when we placed the orders that they were correct as well. So I mean, they still had salesmen that went to the customers, but I had to make sure that those estimates were correct. If they weren't, I had to make sure they got fixed, and then I had to order the materials with the proper amount of materials.
Gotcha. Okay. And so, what's next? Like, what brought you to me looking for a new job?
Well, when I worked at Top Build, I was commuting about 2 hours each way every day. They changed the in-office to from 2 days to 3 days, and it got to be rather tough. I ran into a few health problems that I've got all straightened out now, and it just didn't work out at the time. So
Okay.
now I'm back in Volusia County, and I don't have to travel so far. But sadly, Top Build has not got any open positions right now for that position. So
Okay. So
I'm
that's got you out here
looking.
in the market looking. Let's see here. And you may have already mentioned it. I'm just going through your resume. Procore, you worked in Procore.
I have done Procore as far as the contract management part of it was concerned.
Okay.
So, but I've been like, we had probably, 30 different companies using Procore. So it was in and out of all kinds of different companies. Each one set up a little bit different. So it's just a matter of kind of figuring out that company's way of
Okay.
doing things.
And then the AIA billing, you've done that too here.
Yep,
It's listed.
absolutely. And at the airport for construction, it was $15 million a week check runs, and we had to match up all the AIA billings with the contracts, with the grants, with the
Mhm.
do's and don'ts and allows and not allows. And
So I think it goes without saying also you've got you pick up software probably very quickly.
yeah,
Pick up
very,
tasks
very
quickly.
quickly. I taught myself QuickBooks, and then I was tested on it not long afterwards, and I aced it. So I was
Yeah.
going to be a QuickBooks Pro, and something happened, and I just went another route.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Stacey, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop this part of the interview and I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.